And good afternoon, producer Susan. Another big win for Penn State. Another nail biter this past Saturday, huh?
It was a complete shutout,
Was it 34 to nothing?
34 to nothing.
I'd
At
never
least
heard.
last week we let them score a touchdown in the last 30
Yeah,
seconds.
you had the third string. You had the cheerleaders in for a couple of plays. So, I didn't never heard of Florida International Union. Have they ever university? Have they ever played them before?
Not that I recall.
Okay, I didn't even know there was such a school. Anyway, so fall is here, right? It's September the 9th. It's the week after Labor Day. I assume it's cooled down in your neck of the woods.
Crisp mornings but warm afternoons. It's going to be in the 80s later this week.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think the fall is here for us. I think we might barely scrape 80 tomorrow, but that's about it. 70s the rest of the week.
I
All
think
right.
like this weekend is going to be 80. We have another home game this weekend against Villanova for your Philadelphia listeners. It's going to
Okay.
be pushing 80 degrees.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, that's three home games in a row. Then how many road games are they in a row?
Well, we get after this week, we have the weekend off to prepare for the biggest game of the season, which will be against the Oregon Ducks.
But that's also a home game, right?
Yes,
So you got four home games in a row?
yes, but Oregon Ducks, biggest game of the year.
I know, I know. All right. Well, good luck with that. Anyway, we got a bunch of stuff to talk about. I don't know who heard me on the radio last night. We're going to cover some of that stuff that I talked on the radio last night in Denver, and I will be on the radio again on Thursday night at 5:30 Mountain, 7:30 Eastern, or maybe it's 5 o'clock. I forget what time. I'm going to check, see what time I'm going to be on. I'll let everybody know, but I'll be on the radio again Thursday night. Anyway, so here's what we're going to try to squeeze in tonight. For the first time, well, we've done this before, but I've got an audio quote tonight, quote of the week. Brown University professor by the name of Glenn Loury on the difference between equity and equality. And it's one of the most powerful quotes I've ever heard. It's a very short uh, speech from him. Maybe 45 seconds, but it's incredibly powerful. Stupidest thing I've heard all week. We'll tell you where a man got arrested for something he posted on his social media. I think it was Twitter. And we'll tell you what he said that literally got him arrested. Four cops, not one, not two, four cops came and handcuffed him and took him away in the paddy wagon. And we'll tell you what he posted that got him arrested. Must have been really horrific and threatening, right?
Yeah,
All right, to have four cops come
you
and take.
know,
All right.
we got freedom of speech in America.
Okay. So you don't think it happened here? All right.
Yeah.
All right. Um, Staying on this topic of stupid, we'll play a clip from Bill Maher, who's always been a far left-wing liberal, but Bill is getting to be a conservative his old age, explaining why he thinks the Gen Z's generation is incredibly stupid. And I'm a little confused. Exactly how old are Gen Z people these days? Are you Gen Z?
No, I'm Gen X.
Gen Z is younger than you?
Yeah,
Okay.
considerably. So the Gen Y is millennial.
Okay.
So it's after the millennials.
So how old are Gen Z people roughly?
Uh, I think they're like teenagers today.
Teenagers and 20s. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Bill Maher, the penultimate liberal, is saying how stupid Gen Z people are. All right. Um, And here's a new one. If you're gaining weight, we'll tell you why you can try to blame climate change. This is a new one. Climate change is why you're gaining weight. So it's not your fault, it's climate change. All right. Um, we'll also play a clip of a man explain to a woman why higher minimum wage laws that many states are now enacting is really helping big companies like Walmart and Amazon and hurting small businesses. And that may be a surprise to you, but when he explains it, you'll realize it uh, instantly why it's helping the big companies and hurting the little mom and pops. Um, in a story you didn't hear about on TV, we'll tell you where and how a young woman from Ukraine was murdered and who killed her. A really tragic story. We'll tell you what the leading cause of death in Canada is, and if you thought it was drugs, traffic accidents, cancer, heart attacks, you'd be wrong. And you may be surprised what is now the leading cause of death in Canada. In addition to all of their other problems, we hear about Chicago. They had like 58 shootings over the Labor Day weekend with eight
Yeah. Yeah.
fatalities. Well, in addition to all their other problems, we'll tell you how many schools in Chicago had Zero students were able to pass the test as proficient. They give out these standardized tests, and it doesn't take much to be proficient. And we'll tell you how many high schools in Chicago didn't have a single student rated as proficient. And our taxpayer relief shot this week is a good one. It's two armed thugs break into the home of two convicted felons. And when the smoke clears, only one of the four people is still alive. So it's a threefer. Okay. Um, two thugs and one convicted felon uh, don't leave that scenario. Don't survive that encounter. All right, let's go to this quote from Brown University, Glenn Loury, and I'm gonna add the fact that he's a black man because if you thought this was a white guy, you might think this guy was a racist, but he is a black professor talking about the difference between equity and equality and why if you're a black person, young black man seeking equity, you're doing yourself a disservice. And here we go.
Finally, I want to say equity is not equality. Equity, and I could name them, but I won't. The writers in the US who are so prominent now in Ibram X. Kendi comes to mind. In promoting a certain ideology, assert, I see a disparity, I want equity. And by equity, they mean an equal representation. This is not equality. If you use a different standard of assessment in order to achieve equity, you've just patronized me. You've just communicated tacitly that you don't think I'm capable of performing according to the objective criteria of assessment as well as anybody else. I am now your client. I am now a ward. I go or come by your leave. This argument that we blacks must be made equal and you have to open up the doors and let us in, never mind that our test scores are not as great, is pathetic. It's a surrender of dignity. You will not be equal at the end of that argument, even if you get what you ask for. There's no substitute for earning the respect of your peers. If they grant it to you out of guilt or pity, they have just reduced you, not elevated you. Again.
What? And to me, that was just a wow, kind of a wow
Yeah.
moment. What was your reaction to that?
He's absolutely right.
Yeah, they have just reduced you. You have
Yeah.
Even if you get what you asked for, you have not won. You've diminished yourself.
Yeah.
To me, that was one of the most incredibly powerful quotes that I've heard in a long, long time. And if you want the links to that, producer Susan, make sure to put
Yeah.
that link in the notes.
Absolutely.
And if
Absolutely.
anybody wants me to send you that link directly, you just send me an email to joe@jerziejoe.com. Or just Google Professor Glenn Loury, Loury, Brown University. That's another way to find it. Now, here's the stupidest thing I heard all week. Apparently, in England, if somebody's like an airhead, and I've heard Gordon Ramsay do this on his American TV show where he goes into these restaurants or these cooking shows where he's chastising these young chefs, and he calls them a muppet, like they're an airhead. Well, this guy posted on Twitter, I think it was, that some woman he was dealing with was a Muppet. They sent not one, not two, not three, four police officers to arrest the guy at his house for calling this woman a Muppet. And I've got a little clip of that shot. There's not a
And this happened in England?
in England, the United Kingdom. And again, they sent four cops to arrest the guy and put him in handcuffs with his hands behind his back because he posted that some woman he was dealing with was, quote, a Muppet. And here's the audio.
So I've been sat around there all this time. Yeah, you decide to come and talk to me when I'm leaving.
Yeah, sure. Well, if you bring you back to me, you're under arrest for Section 4A public order offence. So
You're under arrest for Section 4 of some code.
Listen, all I'm going to say is if you guys really want to do this.
Yes,
right, you're arresting me for what offence?
Section 4A public order.
Public order for what? Sending pictures?
Public order number, that he's being arrested for violating public order number 4 for referring to some woman as a Muppet. God, aren't you glad you don't live in the United Kingdom?
Yeah, I mean, that's not, at least not in America, it's not derogatory
You know,
or,
I'd be serving 3 life sentences right now if I was in the United Kingdom.
well, you like to argue with people who ate paste as a
I
child.
know. But, but Muppet, by the way, I've never used vulgarity, but, I say to people, it's hilarious when people self-publish their own ignorance, or I'll ask them a question, are you really that clueless, or how clueless and uninformed are you?
Mhm.
And it's all true. I mean, remember, it's not an insult if it's true,
Yeah.
so, um, but that's, again, United Kingdom, and we had one of these a couple of weeks ago, right, where they arrested. Remember, there was another one about 2 weeks ago. We did one.
Mhm.
So people in the United Kingdom are getting arrested for simply putting comments. We talked about, hey, if you've slandered somebody, they always have the right to sue you civilly for
Yeah.
damages.
Yeah.
Do we really need to make name calling a criminal offense? But hey, that's the way the UK is going. All right, let's go back to Bill Maher. And Bill is going to talk about Gen Z and why he thinks they're stupid. And here we go, Bill Maher, the classic liberal.
Of Gen Z agree with the statement society would be better off if all property was owned by the public and managed by the government. And another 29% say they don't know if that's a good idea. Here's who does know: anyone who wasn't born yesterday. So when you say you're old, you don't get what? Abolish the police and the border patrol and capitalism and cancel Lincoln? No, I get it. The problem isn't that I don't get what you're saying or that I'm old. The problem is that your ideas are stupid.
China, Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela.
So what do you think of Bill Maher?
Yeah, so I did Google this. So Gen Z
Oh,
are
yes, Soviet
currently
Union.
between the ages of 13 and 28.
13 and 20. So
Yeah,
he's probably, yeah,
teens and 20s.
he's talking about, young college, people in their 20, college students, yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm going to just play the beginning. Let's see if I can get back to the very beginning. It's about whether or not they agree with this statement about we'd be better off if government ran all business. Here we go.
Of Gen Z agree with the statement society would be better off if all property was owned by the public and managed by the government. And another 29% say they don't know if that's a good idea.
Basically, what he just described as communism, where government owns all the business and all the property and tries to run it. Has that ever worked ever?
No,
Has it always failed all the time?
always.
Always. So 20% thinks it would be a good idea, and the other 29% aren't sure.
Mhm.
That's half. That's exactly half the people. So yes, Bill Maher is right. Gen Z people are stupid if they don't know that. All right, here's a new wrinkle on the excuse to something to blame it on if you're gaining weight other than your lack of self-control. So according to the link story below, the link story in my notes, if you're gaining weight, you can now blame climate change as the culprit. According to the study it references, when the weather gets warmer, people eat and drink more sugary and high-carb foods like ice cream, sodas, and sweet teas and beer. Now, who would have thought that people didn't do those exact same things during the summers in the 1930s and 40s before climate change became a thing? Weren't
Yeah.
they doing the same stuff in the summers in the 30s?
When I was a kid, we used to drink Kool-Aid by the gallon a day. And for those who don't know, because I don't even know if they sell this anymore, Kool-Aid is just a flavor packet, and you mix it with literally cups of sugar.
Cups and cups of sugar.
Pure sugar.
And in the South,
Slow.
in the South, you drink sweet tea.
Sweet tea, yeah. I mean,
Sweet tea.
pure sugar, sweet and low, equal, Splenda, all those things weren't even invented yet.
They didn't exist. So if you were
We're talking cups of pure granulated sugar, and we would drink a gallon of it a day.
right, but now you can blame climate change. So when it's hot, of course, people eat more ice cream in August than they do in January, right?
Of course.
But now you can blame climate change. All right. Got another clip. And this is, I forget this gentleman's name. He's got a series of stuff, but he's having a debate with a woman who's advocating. By the way, remember it used to be fight for 15, and then that was Bernie Sanders. We need to fight for $15 an hour.
Oh,
Well, now 15. All the states have already gone way past 15, and now
Right.
she's saying that stores need to pay people 20. Well, this guy explains to her why higher minimum wages are very, very good for companies like Amazon and Walmart, and very, 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 very bad for smaller regional businesses. And here we go. All right, there we go. And this guy's name is Patrick Bet David, hyphenated Bet David. Here we go.
Governor here says we're going to raise the minimum wage to $20 an hour. Who do you think can afford it? The market that's been within a family, the small business, or do you think Walmart? Who do you think can afford to go to $20 an hour minimum wage?
So that's where I think we have to factor in other systems other than capitalism. I think you're kind of making the point that's been made a few times today, where we
No,
can't
it
just look
hasn't
at
been made. This
one
hasn't been made.
thing.
No, this hasn't made. The point I'm making here is anytime a Bernie Sanders gets up and says, let's raise the minimum wage for $15, and he was caught in his campaign not paying his own workers $15, $13 an hour, and he had to talk about it and apologize that even a guy that's a socialist wasn't paying a minimum wage. But if you raise it to $15, Amazon celebrates.
Okay.
Walmart celebrates. Do you know why? Because the employers from this supermarket that have been working for this family for the longest time, they can't afford to pay that. So they leave and go to Amazon and Walmart. What happens? The bigger companies keep getting bigger. The small businesses go out of business because of minimum wage.
And what he's referencing, and I actually did some research, there's a ratio which is labor cost, as a percent of your total cost. Well, when you look at Amazon, companies like Amazon, their labor cost is a tiny, tiny fraction. And the same thing with Walmart. Walmart, a Walmart store, 50, 60,000 square feet, will do, they're doing more than $1 million a month in sales. If you have a small regional, like a bodega type of thing, their labor cost as a percent of their sales is much, much higher. So when you increase their mandatory minimum wage, it hurts that small business because they can't absorb that 10% increase in labor cost because it's such a huge portion of their total operating cost. Does that make any sense to you?
Absolutely.
So,
But I just look at every, when you, especially you compare New York or Pennsylvania to New Jersey. So federal minimum wage is $7.25. Pennsylvania minimum wage is also $7.25. New Jersey is twice that at $15.49. And you look at the cost of living between Pennsylvania and New Jersey. But even at $7.25 an hour, there is not a job anywhere around here less than $15.
No, by the way, my opinion on the federal minimum wage is it's that it's an irrelevant dinosaur. It's a relic
Mhm.
uh, that just needs to be abolished. No, it's ludicrous to think that there can be a single minimum wage that is relevant in not only every state but every city within the
Mhm.
United States. I mean, the difference between Jackson, Mississippi, or Des Moines, Iowa, and San Francisco, the federal minimum wage just needs to go away. And by the way, I think Thomas Sowell said the real minimum wage, you know what he said the real minimum wage is?
What people are willing to.
No, he said the real minimum wage is zero. Because if the employer can't afford to pay you
Mhm.
what he's being required to pay, you won't have a job, and therefore the minimum wage will be zero. And by the way, if you go to if you Google BLS, which stands for Bureau of Labor Statistics,
Mhm.
and then table B as in boy 3,
Mhm.
you will see they put this, I update this every month, BLS table B3. I'm sorry, that's the wrong, your average hourly, yeah, B-3. Do you know as of August what the average hourly wage in this country was? And again, this excludes managers, supervisors, and owners, salary supervisors. This is strictly hourly workers. Do you know what the average hourly wage in the United States is right now?
I'm going to say $15 an hour.
$36.53. $36.53. And they break it down by industry, by manufacturing, construction, by the way, in mining and logging, construction, oil for the trades, transportation, utilities, 36.53 is the total private sector hourly wage right now. So and by the way, there's been a sandwich board sign up in the lobby of the Walmart near me for months now. They're hiring people to put soup cans on shelves for $17.50 an hour.
Yeah. Our
17.50 an hour.
all the local convenience stores around here are hiring, day shifts at 15 and night shifts at 18.
Yeah. The federal minimum, by the way, and the last time I looked, less than 3% of the people in this country work for the statutory minimum wage, and the vast majority who do work in tip positions like waiters, waitresses, cocktail servers, and casino dealers. There's virtually nobody I don't recall. I'm not aware of anybody who's working for straight minimum wages if they're not in a tip position. By the way, do you know how much a cocktail waitress in a casino makes on a Saturday night?
Oh, probably easily $50 an hour.
Well, I've actually asked a couple, and then they say and they have to kick back some of their, not kick back, but they have to share some of their tips with the
Yeah.
bartender and the barbacks.
Yeah.
But they're taking home 350, 400 a night. In fact, one of my nieces, whose son might be going to Penn State, she used to be a cocktail waitress. She told me on a good night she'd bring home $600, $700,
Yeah.
and that was like 10 years ago.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
cash money, not
Yeah.
on the W-2, cash money. Anyway, so that's where we are. All right. So how much money we got? How much time we got, rather?
Oh, you got 10, 13 minutes,
Okay.
15 minutes. Yeah, you're good.
Now, you may have listened to me. I don't know if I didn't talk about this last night. Did you hear in the news a story about a young Ukrainian woman who was murdered in Charlotte, North Carolina, a couple of days ago?
I did not.
Well, if you go to Fox News, a young Ukrainian woman she came here seeking asylum from the war in Ukraine, and she was granted asylum, and
Mhm.
she got a job, and she was working at a pizza shop, and she was 10 o'clock at night. She's coming home from her job as a pizza. She's supporting herself. She wasn't on welfare. She sits down on a light rail train, run by the city of Charlotte, and this guy sitting in the seat behind her in a red hoodie. After 3 or 4 minutes, and she's looking, they're both facing in the same direction, so she can't see him, but he can see her. He just gets up, pulls a knife out of her pocket, and just starts stabbing her in the side of the neck, kills her. He cut her carotid artery, and she dies.
Uh,
This guy had been arrested 14 times. He was a
wow.
career felon, and he just extinguished this young and very pretty blonde girl, escaped the war in Ukraine, and here she is. What struck me is why this story didn't get covered by Fox News did cover it, but ABC, NBC, CBS. When I did my Google search, none of those other networks other than Fox News covered this story. So if we just cover Fox, let me see if I can tell you what her name was. Let me see if I can just pull up
There
this.
was a a mutual friend of ours posted a similar clip, and I'm wondering if it's the same guy, but the guy in a red hoodie
Yep.
stabbed a young teenage boy on the subway.
Well,
I
this was.
might have been the
I,
same. It might have been the same. I wonder if it's the same guy.
It could have been. By the way, this young lady's name was Irina, which is spelled Iryna, Zarutska, Zarutska,
Mhm.
Zarutska. So just Google Charlotte, North Carolina, Irina Zarutska, and you'll actually see the video. It's frightening. She's there looking at her phone. She has no idea this guy's behind her about to stab her in the neck and kills her. And again, we talk about judges and prosecutors and
Yeah.
arrested 14 times, and here he is killing
Yeah, why is
innocent
he
young
out? Why is he out on the street after 14 felony arrests?
14 felony arrests. And again, this guy should have been in jail for the next 20 years. And I bring this up because again, these are the stories the national media, other than Fox, for some reason chooses not to cover, and I'm still trying to figure out why they don't want to cover these stories. All right. Moving on, I teased at the beginning the leading cause of death in Canada. Now, you might say in the United States we lose 100,000 people a year to drug overdoses.
Yep.
We lose 40,000 people a year to traffic accidents, cancer, heart attacks,
Mhm.
natural causes, obesity, old age. Um,
Old age is actually not a cause of death, by the way.
right. Yeah, but natural causes, but anyway, but you would think, one of those would be the The leading cause of death in Canada is now government-enabled assisted suicide. Now, Canada only has 41 million people, about the same population as California.
Mhm.
Last year, they had 15,343
Wow.
enabled assisted suicide. Imagine 15, that's more people than get killed by gunshots in the United States.
Mm.
15,343. The
I
government will
imagine
actually,
that there's now that there are a couple of states. I want to say, is it Washington or Oregon that a handful of states in the United States do allow assisted suicide.
yeah, a handful, but you're talking
But there's parameters. There's very strict parameters
very
on
strict
what.
parameters. And I think in total, you're talking a couple of hundred per state.
Mhm.
15,000
Yeah,
in a country that has the population of California.
yeah.
All right. So let's move on to Chicago. I teased this at the beginning, with all their, 58 shootings, over the Labor Day weekend. Well, the Illinois Board of Education, they've got these standardized tests. I don't know what they call them. They just published the results. So last year they had 80 schools, and your typical high school has what, 200, 300, 400 kids in it?
Ours is actually close to 1,000 here.
So high school?
Yeah, our high school is like 900 and something.
Well, they had 80 schools, of which almost 50 were in the city of Chicago. Out of those schools, out of those 50 Chicago schools, not a single student, not one student in any of those 50 schools was tested as proficient in reading and
Wow.
in math. And ready for this? You've got well over a dozen of them had graduation rates below 40%. Now, let me ask you a question. If you're in Chicago and you're a high school dropout and you can't do simple math like making change for a $5 bill when the customer offers it to you for a $3.76 purchase, what are the chances that you'll wind up becoming just another career criminal in that city?
Yeah, if you don't have a skill, and a skill includes reading and writing,
Yeah.
how are you going to get a job?
Yeah, I mean, if you tell somebody, well, that's going to be $3.76 and he hands you a $5 bill and you can't make change, well, first of all, if you're a high school dropout, who's going to hire you?
Yeah.
But if you can't have basic, even if you're going to like mix paint,
Mhm.
or uh, if you don't have basic math, you're not going to be employable. So you're going to wind up being a career criminal.
Mhm.
And we've got this. It's the 2024 ISBE stands for Illinois State Board of Education. And we got a chart that shows all of these 80 schools, of which 50 were in Chicago. All right. Are we ready for the taxpayer relief shot?
Hey, you got about 7 minutes.
All right. Well, since we have 7, we will go on and give a little preamble. The reason we call them taxpayer relief shots is that if a thug gets arrested, well, first thing that happens, he gets a jury trial, which is a court-appointed attorney, and he gets some appeals, and that's $200,000 for the trial, because you're paying not only for his attorney, you're paying for the prosecutor and the judge and the jury. And then if he gets sentenced to 10 years in jail at 80,000 a year, that's another 8. So it's $1 million to send a thug to jail for 10 years. And here's why we call them taxpayer relief shot. We'll start with the sheriff of Santa Rosa County, Florida.
Somebody's breaking in your house, you're more than welcome to shoot them in Santa Rosa County. We prefer that you do, actually. Hopefully, you'll save the taxpayers money.
Then, of course, we have Sheriff Grady Judd.
But we have received information in social media that some of the criminals were going to take their criminal conduct into the neighborhoods. I would tell them, if you value your life, you probably shouldn't do that in Polk County, because the people of Polk County like guns. They have guns. I encourage them to own guns, and they're going to be in their homes tonight with their guns loaded. And if you try to break into their homes to steal, to set fires, I'm highly recommending they blow you back out of the house with their guns.
And we have one more for Sheriff Judd from Polk County, Florida.
I would highly suggest that if a looter breaks into your home, comes into your home while you're there to steal stuff, that you take your gun and you shoot him. You shoot him so that he looks like grated cheese.
All right, so now let's go to Sacramento, California, where 2 armed thugs break into the home of 2 convicted felons. By the way, can convicted felons have a gun?
No, they cannot. Not in any state.
All right. Well, we'll keep that in mind when you listen to this story.
News in Sacramento County, new details after 3 people were shot and killed in a Carmichael apartment. Deputies now say this all started with an attempted robbery. Deputies say they were able to piece this together with a witness and surveillance video. Thank you for joining us for the KCRA 3 News at noon. I'm Ashley Zavala and for Lisa Gonzalez. This happened yesterday at an apartment complex on El Camino Avenue near Landwood Way. When deputies arrived, they saw several bullet holes. Inside, they found 3 men in their 20s who had been shot and killed. Deputies now say one of the men was being robbed by the other 2. During the fight, one of the robbers shot the man. A 4th man in the apartment then fired his gun and killed both robbers. Deputies say all 4 men had prior felony convictions and were prohibited from having a gun. They detained 18-year-old Jalen Davis, but he is not facing a homicide charge right now. He is facing a firearms charge. It's not clear if the 4 men knew each other. We don't know yet we don't know the names yet of the 3 men who died. We have breaking news in Sacramento County.
So the survivor was an 18-year-old convicted felon. In addition to being a felon in possession of a gun, can an 18-year-old legally be in possession of a pistol?
No.
No. So he's an 18-year-old convicted felon in possession of a gun. Now, he shot the 2 thugs who broke in. His roommate is dead. But there's 2 thugs and a convicted felon all got shot in the same incident.
If only we had gun laws to prevent felons
Yeah,
and minors from having
felons
guns.
and teenagers from getting hold of pistols. We need common sense gun laws so that type of stuff doesn't
None
happen.
of these laws would have prevented these people from having these guns.
Yeah, because the 2 people broke in. You heard them say the two dead thugs that broke in, they were also convicted felons.
Yeah.
So nobody, and California, by the way, has some of the most stringent gun laws in the entire country.
New York, Illinois, and California are probably the top 9 states.
And
And
you can
they
say-
also have the highest crime rates.
And yeah, and you can add that in. So even Joe Biden, when he was a senator, said that he was convinced that a criminal, and there's actually quotes from where I've got it. Joe Biden, when he was a senator, said, "I am convinced that a criminal will always be able to get a gun, regardless of no matter what gun laws we pass."
It's just like locks only keep honest people out.
Yeah, locks only keep honest people out. Let me see if I can actually find that quote by Biden.
Yeah, you have a couple of minutes.
All right, Biden, here we go. Biden gun control quote. Here's a quote. This is a verbatim quote. "I am convinced that a criminal who wants a firearm can get one through illegal, untraceable, and unregistered sources with or without gun control." Senator Joe Biden, 1985.
Yeah, he's
think
absolutely right.
I think Democrats should pay attention to what our former president said, because he was convinced that criminals will always be able to get a gun through illegal, untraceable, and unregistered sources with or without gun control. And that's a quote by Senator Joseph Biden. All right. Anything you want to add before we sign off?
Nope.
All right. Well, again, you can listen to me on Thursday night on KLZ. I'll send. I forget if it's going to be 5 or 5:30. I'll send out a little teaser on that on Thursday morning. Anyway, I want to thank everybody who listened to this podcast for giving up 30 minutes out of your busy day to listen to me ramble on about the things that I find of interest and importance. And I hope you found those topics as interesting and important as I did. And if so, hope you continue to listen to this podcast in the weeks and months to come. Now, if you want to see some materials and story links you heard me talk about today, you'll be able to find them on the Jerzee Joe website at jerziejoe.com, with Jerzee being spelled J-E-R, Z as in zebra, E-E, Jerzee, jerziejoe.com. Just give producer Susan a day or two to get those links up on the website. But if you want to email me with a comment, question, or you want me to send you one of those links directly, be happy to do it. Or if you want to suggest a show topic, you can do that by sending me an email to just joe@jerziejoe.com. Just remember to spell Jerzee Joe with an R, a Z, and 2 E's. And with that, producer Susan, anything else you want to add before we sign off?
Enjoy this lovely fall weather.
You too, and I will talk to you next week. You take care. Bye-bye.